Good evening, Rangers. Welcome to Critoni Entertainment. I'm Chris, and if it's Monday, it's Morphin time. We're back with another Power Rangers gameplay sort of theory video rather than a painting video this week. This week we're going to be discussing the Guard Rangers that we brought up in our previous video, the 5 types of Rangers. More specifically, I'm not going to go into each individual Guard Ranger, but I want to talk about the idea of blocking damage in Heroes of the Grid. There are a lot of cards in this game. I actually went through and pulled them out of my collection. By my count, there's 17 different individual cards that are going to block damage or reduce damage in some way. And there's actually more than that. These are just the unique ones, because multiples of these decks have several. For example, we've got Tough Stuff for Space Pink in here. We've got the Green Ranger Dragon Shield, things like that. Well, there's actually going to be multiple copies in the deck, so there's going to be multiple opportunities to reduce damage. But really the topic of tonight's video is not which cards reduce damage, it's when is the best time to use a card that's going to reduce damage. It's very tempting to say, okay, I'm holding onto a block or a smooth moves or a golden card or any number of different cards that are going to reduce damage, but it's not always the best time to play them just because we take damage. There's a lot of factors involved into whether or not now is the right time to play these cards, because in the case of a lot of these cards, you're still taking the damage, you just don't necessarily realize it in the same way. So some obvious times where it's going to be a good opportunity to play a damage reduction card like a Dragon Shield or a block is going to be is if you have a Ranger in imminent danger of actually being defeated. So you've got somebody with 1 or 2 cards left in their deck. You may have been kind of paying attention to your hand and discard and know that those cards are only going to be 1 or 2 shields worth remaining, and you're about to take a big 3 or 4 damage hit. And you want to make sure that Ranger stays standing so you don't burn an energy token and have to go back to the command center or whatever your HQ is and start over, and put you 1 step closer to losing the game. So obviously you're going to throw out a damage reduction card in a scenario like that where you're trying to keep a Ranger alive. That's not to say that deliberately being defeated isn't a valid tactic in the game. Actually, there's plenty of times where saying, hey, we have a Ranger in big trouble, and we have 1 activation left. Maybe it'll be better to be defeated and then use that last action to move to another battle than it would be to say, hey, let's spend my last action on a recover, or if the command center's in play, spend my last action to go back there to get a power up, because then you're going to get stuck at the command center, you're not going to be able to do anything. So there are times you want to allow yourself to be defeated, but that's really kind of not what we're getting into today. We're talking more about the blocking mechanic or the damage reduction mechanic, if you will. So obviously, again, if you need to keep a Ranger alive, you don't want to lose one of those energy tokens waiting at the command center. That's absolutely absolutely a time that you want to play it. In the event, and I might be making this event up because honestly I can't think of one off the top of my head, but in the event where damage is going to lead you to losing additional things, then you definitely want to use it. Like say if you're going to lose a card, and again, I honestly can't remember, I really should research these videos, but I don't remember if that's even in the game, but maybe eventually there'll be a monster who does, and if you can reduce the damage and somehow prevent that, that's not a bad thing either. It's also a good time to use your block cards if you're playing a bit of deck manipulation in a way. So if you're playing a character like Mighty Morphin Blue and you've got your Mighty Maces on the top of the deck, or you've got any sort of other mechanic that you know what card is on the top of a Ranger's deck and you want to prevent that card from being revealed for defense, in that it'll get discarded or moved to the bottom of your deck depending on how many shields it has, that's also a good time to play a damage reduction to make that go away, and say, okay, we've still got this card sitting there for when I want to pull it. So those are kind of the 2 more generic times. But a lot of these abilities that reduce damage also have other abilities to them, or if they don't have other abilities to them, they've got, effectively, you're still taking the damage. And let me kind of establish what I mean by that with the most obvious and simplest of the blocking cards, and that would be Mighty Morphin Red's block. You're going to play this card as a reaction when another Ranger is going to take damage, and you're going to reduce that damage by 3. Here's where you're taking the damage yourself, though. Block is a 3 shield card. So you're effectively playing a 3 shield defense on an attack. So you're paying that health, because block is going to go to your discard pile when you're done with it. You're not going to have access to it again until you recover or play a card that brings something back from the discard, or you go back to the command center and you power up. So you're going to be paying that damage. So when do we want to do this? Well, we want to do this when it's going to be most beneficial to the team. Again, that situation where somebody's going to be defeated, or a time where you maybe want to open up your hand a little bit. Maybe you're holding both blocks and you're going into a fight where you don't think you're going to need them, and you know you're going to be doing multiple rounds of fighting. You don't necessarily want those sitting in your hand and taking up hand space. So if you really need open space in your hand to draw your next card, playing something like block on any damage source is going to get it out of your hand, and it's also going to prevent the team from taking damage. Otherwise, I would save block for kind of a bigger hit. I would save it for 3 damage and above attacks, either get them down to 0, or if you're taking a 4 or more damage attack, it's a good card to play as well, because you can take away most of the damage, and you can also leave a little bit left. So if the ranger taking the damage is a ranger like Mighty Morphin Blue or Zeo Red or any other ranger that's going to get an additional effect if they draw a certain card as defense, then it'd be a good time to do it, because you're going to minimize the damage they're going to take, but at the same time, you're going to let that ability get through. Obviously, you're probably not going to waste it on a 1 or 2 damage attack unless it's a really dire situation, because again, you're going to be spending a 3 life card effectively to reduce that damage. Other cards that kind of get the best benefit are going to be cards like Dragon Shield. Dragon Shield is, again, a 3 shield card that reduces damage by 3. When I look at a card like Dragon Shield, though, it's going to be in the hands of one of 2 rangers. It's going to be in the hand of Mighty Morphin Red, or it's going to be in the hand of Green Ranger, in which case he's going to have 2 of them in his deck. So we got Green Ranger Dragon Shield here. But it's going to do the same thing either way. You're going to spend an energy, and you're going to reduce damage by 3. But additionally, the next attack that you make is going to be with an additional die. The money attack motion, or the money use of Dragon Shield is not going to be for its defensive value. The money motion is going to be to play it when you're about to make a different attack. As mentioned, the only 2 rangers who have Dragon Shield are going to be Mighty Morphin Red Dragon Shield, or they're going to be Green Ranger. Both of them are also carrying a Dragon Dagger, which specifically attacks twice rather than attacks and attacks again, or attacks and attacks a second time. So the Dragon Shield buff should affect both attacks that you're going to make. So now you've gone from a 3/3 attack to a 4 dice attack just by playing Dragon Shield in advance. Now that is kind of an expensive combo, because you're going to be paying 4 energy to do it, assuming you don't have any energy mitigation in play. But that's going to still be a significant boost. You're basically getting 2 free dice and avoiding 3 damage. Other instances where the Dragon Shield is going to come into play when you're taking less than 3 damage, you may want to throw it out against a 1 or 2 damage if the next card that's going to be coming up in play for the order is going to be something like the Hyperion Scythe, a card that's going to double its damage output from what it rolls, or even the Power Axe for Mighty Morphin Black Ranger. The ability to get an extra die in there gives you the potential of a higher damage output, and the ability for that ranger to pick bigger dice to splash into other targets. So these are kind of obvious sort of uses of blocking mechanics. Other ones that are pretty obvious is going to be like Magna Defense. This card is a unique one in that it gets stronger if there's another Magna Defense in the discard pile. So Magna Defense is one of those cards that I'm like, hey, this is good to use almost against any source of damage, if I've got the other one in my hand, because I know I can use that other one to kind of hold back on a doozy attack. Something's going to do a lot of damage, I can push it away. Alpha 5, same thing, emergency shields. With the Alpha 5 as he currently operates, it's not going to be the same with the Forever Ranger pack coming out in April, but Alpha 5 as he currently operates, getting this card that reduces damage by 2, I like to use it as soon as possible. And the simple reason for that is the way my group interprets the rules with Alpha 5, and I know there's some disagreement on this, so if this doesn't apply to your group, it doesn't apply to your group. And we're going to do a video later down the road about what rules are actually legal in a game. And what legality actually means, but I'm not gonna spoil that topic today. But my group interprets the Alpha 5 rules and bringing Alpha 5 cards into your hand as being part of your maximum hand size. I don't think it's addressed directly in the FAQ. It may be addressed somewhere. If it is, I've missed it and I may be wrong, but that's how we interpret it. We play it as if it's part of your hand. So when we bring an Alpha card into our hand, typically we like to get it played back out of our hand as fast as possible, just so we can get back to our Ranger cards that are going to do more attacks. They're usually the ones we're more well versed with, and the ones we kind of like to deal with more. Cards like Golden Guard, that's going to reduce the damage by 2. It's not quite as powerful as something like a Dragon Shield, but again, that's going to be the type of card you want to bring out when a ranger's close to death, or if you're going to trigger its other ability, and you'll be, if you're playing Trey Triforia, you're going to trigger that other ability right away. You're going to be able to move a hit token from one foot soldier to another. If we have a situation, or one enemy card to another, if we have a situation we're playing Zeo Ranger Gold, and we have the opportunity to do that, and say we've got an enemy with 1 hit token left before it dies, Golden Guard's going to come out for almost anything because we're not using it for the damage mitigation. We're using it to move a hit token over something to potentially take it out and be done with it. We've also got Defensive Stance. Defensive Stance is, and I've got the original one here that's a reaction. It's not actually a damage reduction card per se, but it also kind of is. It's a 3 shield card that obviously you're going to gain energy, you're going to draw a card, and then you're going to put this on top of your deck. So it's not going to take anything out of your hand. You're going to have a replacement card right away. You're going to have an extra energy in your pool to play something down the road. But the damage mitigation from this card really comes into play with the fact that you're now going to know that the next card on top of at least one Ranger's deck is a 3 shield card. So you're effectively negating up to 3 damage. And if you do it on a 1 or 2 damage attack, you're going to be putting this card on the bottom of your deck after you draw it again. So you're not even going to reduce your life at all. So if you're looking at a barrage of enemies here, and there are times where in my group, and I don't know who else has experienced this, where we're fighting a monster and there's 4 foot soldiers at the location, and we don't have the best of hands. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus fire on the monster, and we know we're going to take the foot soldier damage, or we're going to focus fire on the foot soldiers, and we know we're going to take a little monster damage. We will try to sit there and plan in advance which enemy card is going to hit us, and playing something like a Defensive Stance in advance that lets us put a 3 shield defense in the way is a valuable ability, and it definitely in my mind kind of counts as a block card because you're just basically playing the card to have a guaranteed 3 damage reduction later in the turn, so it works a little bit differently. We've got the, I'm going to pronounce this horribly wrong, the Koea shield. Maybe it's the Koea shield. Anyway, it's Hyperforce Blacks. It's, again, a 3 shield reaction that you're going to play to reduce damage by 2, and then you're going to put this card on the top of your deck instead of discarding this. This is a 5 damage swing card, effectively, for 1 damage, which is phenomenal. You're going to sit there, and I'm almost going to play this as soon as I have the opportunity, whether it's 1 damage, 2 damage, or 3 damage attack. I'm going to get this played if I know there's bigger damage attacks coming that I'm not necessarily focused on. Again, same scenario. We've got some monsters in play. We've got some foot soldiers. It's going to take multiple attacks taking a monster card. I might take that foot soldier damage. I'm going to play this Koea shield as early in the cycle as possible. We're going to put it right back on the top of Hyperforce Black's deck. It's going to come up later, and we're going to use it as an opportunity to negate 3 more damage. So it's a 5 damage blocking card that I'm going to want to play as fast as possible. Hyperforce Yellow has got Protect and Serve, which is going to be a 0 damage reaction. It is a 2 shield card, and this one is interesting because this is going to let you move a card to the bottom of a deck. So it's not actually reducing the damage, but you're not taking the damage. It's redistributing the damage in a way. It's not going to go to your discard pile. It's not going to affect the Ranger's overall health. The card is still going to be there, and you're going to know where it is too, which is also a valuable thing, especially if you're playing with certain other Rangers. Like, for example, again, play this card to gain 1 energy, which is always a good thing, and that Ranger plays this card on the bottom of your deck instead of discarding it. Knowing exactly where it is going to let you turn around and use somebody like Ninjor to get that card back from the bottom of their deck, get it into play a little bit faster. So that's the type of card I'm going to use if I have a Ninjor-like character that's going to let me fish into the bottom of my deck. I'm going to use it almost as soon as I see a card that I want to put on the bottom of my deck. Otherwise, I'm going to save that for a big money card. I'm going to save that for a 3 shield or whatnot. And I'm going to send that to the bottom of the deck, give me a little extra life down the road. You've got Python Grab. This is going to be Hyperforce Blue. This is a 1 energy maneuver that doesn't really seem like a damage blocking card at first, but it definitely is because you're going to attach this card to an enemy, and it's going to reduce the amount of enemy that damage does. That is effectively a way of saying I am playing a Smooth Moves or a Golden Guard or any of those other reduced damage by 2 cards, but I'm playing it specifically on this enemy, and I know about it in advance. So this is going to let me manipulate the battle a little bit better, and that's an opportunity for say I'm fighting a monster who's going to be about to deal 4 damage to me. I'm going to throw Python Grab on him. It's going to reduce it to 2. Maybe I've got that Hyperforce Red Ranger in play, and I know his next card is a 3 shield. So I'm about to pull that 3 shield card. That 3 shield card is going to go to the bottom of my deck because it's going to be higher than the 2 damage I'm now taking. And if I have somebody like Ninja in play, I can get that card back into my hand and start the cycle all over again in a way. So it's all about building card combos and taking as little damage as possible without spending it pointlessly. Then you have something like Invisible Hero. Invisible Hero for Phantom Ranger is going to again be a reaction. Play this card when Ranger suffers damage to reduce that damage by 2. If your figure is on your character card, you can play this anywhere, which is obviously a good thing. You don't have to be in the fight. I don't use Phantom Ranger's ability to sit on his card that often, but most of my games get played in a 3-ranger field rather than a 4, 5, or 6-ranger field. So Phantom Ranger doesn't do that much good on his card. So if somebody has an experience with Phantom Ranger sitting on his card doing something, please let me know in the comments. Let's talk about it. Let's get an opportunity. But this is, again, something like a Golden Guard. It's going to reduce damage by 2. I'm going to use it, again, for an opportunity where I know what the next card in somebody's deck is. Maybe I know that because I maneuvered my deck that way, like in the case of Defensive Stance for Hyperforce Red, or maybe it's because I am moderately decent at card counting, and my deck is getting low, and I've sat there and I've said, okay, I know that I have a 2 shield card on the bottom of my deck because I played some effect to get it there, and I have one more 3 shield card that hasn't made it to my hand or my discard. I know I've got a 3 shield sitting there. So maybe I'm going to use this on a 3 damage attack or a 4 damage attack to bring it down to a 1 or a 2, then reveal my 3 shield. It's going to go back on the bottom of my deck. It's basically going to give me an extra turn of life or an extra reveal of life for that ranger and keep him in play. So the common theme here is that you're taking advantage of keeping a ranger in play, which is obviously what a black card should be used for. So I'm not really treading any unique ground on there. I guess the ultimate point of what we're trying to get at is we don't want to just throw out these cards immediately. We want to look at these secondary effects for defending rangers, and there are times that it's okay to take damage, especially if you've maneuvered your deck in such a way that you're not going to have to deal with it. Other examples of damage mitigation, this one's kind of a unique one because it's fight or flight. There's no guarantee this is going to have damage mitigation. This is a 50-50. When am I going to play this? I'm going to play this if the enemy attacking me is weak, because there's a chance I could kill it. And that's really going to be my main criteria. I'm never going to play this card hoping that I pull the damage reduction, because there's no guarantee of it. So I'm just going to let it happen. And I'm going to actually be going for the 2 damage on fight or flight rather than the defensive. Unless I'm really desperate, but if I'm so desperate that fight or flight's the only card that's keeping my team in the game, I've probably got a bigger issue anyway. That said, we've also got Showboating. Showboating doesn't seem like a damage mitigation card, but it definitely is, because it's going to protect all effects of that enemy card. So that any damage it does, any other nasty effects, it's just going to make it go away. You're going to gain an energy. I like to save Showboating for the very last enemy activation of a big fight where I know I'm not going to clear the board. Maybe something went wrong, some dice rolls went poorly, I started a fight and the health numbers were too high and I just couldn't get through them all. I'm going to save Showboating for that very, very last ranger play. And the reason I'm going to do that is it's going to put an energy in the shared pool, which at the end of that fight, a ranger that's used it up is going to soak it back onto them, and I'm going to be able to ignore the biggest downside of Showboating, which is skip the next ranger turn, which can be absolutely devastating. I don't like the idea of blocking one card out only to basically jump to the next enemy card and slow down my ability to actually fight the enemy. But Showboating is definitely those block types cards. I save it for the end, and I only really am doing it to just say, hey, a fight has started. I can ignore the last card in the sequence. It is irrelevant to me. It's not going to do anything. You got Power Disc. I almost said Power Shield. I had to look at the card again and realize it wasn't a Power Shield. This is a very, very expensive blocking card. At 3 energy, but it's going to reduce damage by 3 and deal 3 damage to an enemy card of your choice. So that's not an attack. That can go on any enemy card, including a guard. Something that's causing you a lot of consternation, something you might not necessarily be able to get to, that something being guarded. 3 damage is huge, but man, honestly, I don't use this card very much. I don't use this card very much for one simple reason, and that's that 3 price tag in the upper corner. That's a lot of energy to pay, and if I don't have a really good battery ranger in play restoring my energy, this is just not a card that's going to come up very often. I'm going to try to get this out of my hand through a power up or whatever I can, because I want this rather in my deck so I can pull my shields. It's just not for me. And if it's a card that works great for you, hey, that's fantastic. I never said I was an expert at this game. I never said my way is the right way of doing it. This is just my perspective for looking at things. Red Riposte is kind of the same thing as some of these other ones. Red Riposte is going to add 2 shields to a card, which is effectively the same as reducing damage by 2. In a way, you're still going to end up revealing the card, but adding the shield is going to give it an opportunity to go to the bottom of your deck rather than be discarded. But again, it's going to be a 2 damage in exchange for 2 damage. So really, I'm only going to play Red Riposte under one of 3 scenarios. Scenario number one is the ranger that's getting hit is going to die or going to be defeated if I don't do this and I want them to stay in play. Scenario number two is that a ranger reveals a card for a defense, and it's a card that has a really, really good output. So it's, 3 shield card. I mean, maybe it's even just a defensive stance, which is not necessarily something that's going to come up for attack action later, but it's a 3 shield card. Or even like a block, it's 3 shield card. So hey, a 3 damage or a 4 damage attack pops up. I'm going to add 2 shields to that. I'm going to make my card a 5 shield card. I'm going to be able to keep my card and put it at the bottom of my deck, and I know I've got basically 3 more health or more, depending on what kind of damage source you're taking. But I've got 3 more health for that ranger coming up later in the sequence. And the third scenario I'm going to play that in is if I pull a big doozy of an attack, if I pull that big, 3 energy power sword, and I've got the energy and I want it, I'm going to play this to make that a 5 shield. I'm going to throw it to the bottom of my deck, and this is where the last part of this combo comes in. Our friend Ninjor again, he's going to let me get it back from the bottom of my deck and do something with it. I'm going to hit it for something I really want for a fight. Items I might really want for a fight: a dragon dagger, a power sword, a power bow. A lot of the 3 energy ultimate weapons, with the exception of power disc, because like I just said, I don't really like that one. But that's when I'm going to use Red Riposte. Is going to be when I want those cards to be to the bottom of my deck, so I can pull them right back out with Ninjor, or to increase my own health. I'm not really worried about the damage mitigation of Red Riposte, because it's going to cost me 2 health to save a card, and I just have to decide which card I really want. If I'm going to pull something like a Blade Blaster in a fight that I have well under control, I don't really want to add 2 shields to that, even if it makes it a 3 shield that I get to hold on to. Because what's 1 shield card in my deck that I'm not planning on using? It's kind of pointless. It doesn't need to be there. We can move on. We got 2 cards left. I apologize for the length of this video, and this is getting boring. I know I said kind of a lot of the same things, target a ranger who's dying and whatnot, but this is kind of what I see the universal truth of these particular ones as. Smooth Moves is the next one. That's going to be Mighty Morphin Black. It's going to reduce our damage by 2, and you're going to gain an energy. I actually look at this one more as a battery card than anything else. The damage 2 ones they're not the greatest damage reduction cards, because, it's okay. It does give you a good opportunity. If you hit with a 3 damage attack, you can reduce it to a 1 damage. It gives the ranger who's defending a decent opportunity to keep the card that they're going to pull for defense and send it to the bottom of the deck. But really, I like this one because it's a battery. It's a 0 energy reaction. I don't have to waste a ranger turn on it. I get to throw an energy in my pool. That right there can make or break the difference in playing an ultimate attack and doing something really cool with my rangers. So I actually use Smooth Moves pretty freely when damage comes up, because I want the extra energy more than I want the damage reduction. And the last card that I really bring into this as a damage reduction or blocking or guard type card is going to be Tough Stuff from Space Pink. Obviously, this is the newest one as of the filming of this video. This is kind of the newest one we have available to us. It's a 0 energy reaction. It's got a lot of text on it. Basically, it boils down to you're going to double the shields on a card, and you're going to do it for 2 damage. This one is Red Riposte on methamphetamines, basically. This is the one that you're going to take that... you take that 12 damage hit from Lord Zed, or you're taking 6 damage from an enemy monster, and you pull that 3 shield ranger card, and you're already a little weak, and you think, hey man, this is where I'm going out. This is where it's all going to fall apart. And then we're going to throw out a Tough Stuff reaction. We're going to turn that 3 shield, we're going to turn it into a 6 shield. She's also got the ability, let's see, what is it? Spend 1 energy, add 2 shields to this if it's pulled as defense. So you got a 4 shield defensive card. We're just going to negate so many attacks and let you send this to the bottom of your deck. This is kind of the ultimate tanking. This is what you're going to want to use. I like to hold this as long as possible, because I want this to turn a 3 shield card into a 6 shield card, which under most circumstances I'm going to be able to keep. If I'm not able to keep it, even like the nastiest attacks in the game, like the deal 12 damage, whatever it's called from Lord Zed, or even some of those deal 6 damage boss cards, I'm going to be able to shrug them off with 1 card. Well, really 2 cards, the 3 shield card in this. But being able to shrug it off and not burn through my deck can make the difference of keeping a ranger in a boss fight or not out of a boss fight. So there we go. That's all, was 17 I think I counted, of the damage mitigation or blocking related cards that I have identified from Heroes of the Grid. You'll notice I left out things that kind of came up as a reaction, because there's no guarantee you're going to be able to pull them. I also kind of left out some of, all of the Zords. I didn't want to deal with the Zords, and I just want to talk about the cards in the deck because a lot of the same philosophies apply. And I left out certain other combos as well. So something like Jurassic Counter for Dino Thunder Black. I don't want to play a damage mitigation card that's going to reduce all my damage to 0, because if I don't reveal a card for defense in certain other cards, I can't trigger certain defenses. Like Zeo Red, a lot of his cards, I think almost all of his cards, I want to reveal them for defense to see what they do. Mighty Morphin Blue has 4 cards that do that as well, where if he reveals them for defense, it gets an additional effect. Obviously, Tough Stuff, if it gets revealed for defense, it has an additional effect. So sometimes dealing your, dropping your damage down to 0 when you have those Rangers in play is also something to think about that you don't necessarily want to do. So you want to always leave 1 damage left if you want those abilities to trigger. So I didn't get into kind of that stuff because that would make the video way too long, but this was just a basic overview of kind of when we use our blocking abilities and just an idea of what to do when somebody slaps you. Weird, right? Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you like this video. Hit the bell icon for additional notifications. Please like the video. Leave a comment below. Your comments certainly help me on the next topic. Next week, we're either going to get into the Power Rangers Hyperforce painting tutorial, if I have it finished up by then. Alternatively, the next episode, we may go ahead and get into start talking about individual Rangers, where we take that philosophy from the 5 type of Rangers video, and we take the philosophies or the ideas from this video, and we put them all together to really say what type of Ranger are we dealing with. So until next time, thanks for watching, and get out there and keep playing some games safely. It's a pandemic still.